Hemant. Prema.
Same thing. The one I don't get the difference in practically.
Swapna. Vinita. Okay, fine. I don't want to disturb all. So fine. Now, what are the basic differences? Now, if you understand the structure clearly and see the syntax, you will be understanding this one. Do you think that why I stressed on syntax? Multiple times I asked you people, hey, did you understand the syntax? Did you understand the syntax? Because based upon the syntax itself, you can understand what is the differences between while, do while, and for.
So it's for loop.
Chance over. Your chance is over now.
So can I
Okay,
try?
let me your chance is over. Now it's my turn. I'll go ahead. See, for and while and do while. Now for loop, what this syntax for this one? So first, what we will be do? Initialization, condition,
And
Increment Decrement.
So here I have only my condition.
Condition.
I'm getting a lot of distraction. I don't know from whom. So you can go on mute. So now here, this is what it happened. Do while, do statements, while,
Condition.
and then condition. So now here what it will happen. So first, when you have been done, it go to the initialization. From the initialization, so it will directly check the condition, yes or no. If it is no, then it will stop. If it is yes, then it will execute the statement, and it will then increment this particular thing. So this is how it will be working at. Now here, if you see here, I know the definitive steps. Means for an example, I'm doing the initialization that, hey, I equal to 0. And how many times I need to run? I know that I equal less than or equal to 100, 200, 300, or 10,000, 1 lakh, 1 crore, whatever it might be. So I know the definitive number where I need to stop. The definitive number is there. But when it comes to this while, I don't have the definitive number. I'll say that always the condition is true. So now here, I'm taking that particular condition. For that particular condition, true or false, then it need to be run. So the basic differences between these two is in terms of syntax, in terms of workflow difference. And then here, if I have a definitive number to run, so that particular definitive number, I'll be incrementing, decrementing, and then having this one, I'll proceed further with it. But here, I'll be depend upon the condition statement. So whether it is true or false on this particular conditional statement, it will take it up and then proceed further to execute it. So this is so always you need to remember that if at all I have a definitive number that I need to iterate for this many times, if you know that I need to iterate for this many times, then it is suggested you to go with the for. And if you don't know the definitive number, I need to iterate it for multiple times until unless this comes. So for an example, I need to iterate for 100 times. I'll use for loop. And I don't know, means until unless this is there, then I need to iterate for this. Then I will be going ahead with the while loop. And while and do while, we already discussed that if you wanted to execute at least once your condition and then check this one, so usually we will go for the while loop, do while loop. So do while always it will gives us the basic example that at least for once it will execute and then it will be fail. So now here you can see that complete flow chart so that it will be very easy for the same thing we shall try to draw there. So initialization, condition checking, and then it would be, if it is false, it ends here. If it is true, it will go to the statement increment decrement. This loop will run again and again. Now, this is a flow chart of while. Start, it will go to the statement. Hey, this is do while. This is for where is while? Actually, they didn't drawn for that particular while. So I think yesterday I shown you, right? So that is for the while. So now this is for do while. So yesterday also we discussed the same thing. Start that particular statement, condition checking. First it will execute. Sujit, can you go on mute? So the statement. So this here first it will execute with the statement, and then this particular statements going to the condition checking. Guys, so it was really a distraction for me. Can't you make yourself mute? If you have, it's a minimum common sense that all the people are in the group. So when you're making a different sounds, it will be very odd for others to hear it out. Please make sure not to happen this again. Fine. So now here, there is this means first we will be executing this particular statements, and then it will go for the condition checking, and then this particular iteration will be happen. So that is where the basic difference for the do while will happen over here. And coming back to actually here it is for basic differences, they have been given it for do while. I'll just bring it up some differences across the system. While, for, while, do while, Java. Oh. Actually, there is one good article. It gives the complete table. I was not able to get that table. So there would be a table is there. So a perfect table, it will come for to compare with all the three things. Previously, it was there in Java tutorial point. I think they have been removed that particular article. So like this, they have the complete differences between all three. Okay, so let me discuss separately, because I don't have that complete comparison table. So you means there is a very good table is there, like for loop, while, and then do while. So what is the differences between all these three things on one, what factors it was there, so we can have it. So it is very simple. So the first difference is on syntax. So here you can see that syntax, it's a initialization, condition, iteration, and the statements here. Here we have the condition and then statements. So this is how it would be executed. The second one is controlled loop, and it is means the for entry. For is entry controlled loop. What do you meant by entry controlled loop means? For an example, now you know that the do while loop is there, right? In the do while loop, in do while loop, so first the entry is not controlled. Why? Because do I execute the statements and then I'll go for the while. Now here I'll be having this particular condition. Okay, this is how this particular things would be executed. Means do this particular statement and then condition will be checked. Means that particular entry means control is not there. But whereas in for loop and in the while loop, if you see here, the entry based, it checks the condition and then it will enter into the loop. Here also it first checks the condition and then it will enter into this. So that is what it was saying, that entry controlled loop. And this is also entry controlled loop. Now when it is do while, is it entry controlled loop?
No.
No.
First time it will go.
So that is what the basic differences between these three. And you see in this syntax differences, this is like this is like this, and this is like this. The next one is, it is used when it's used when initialization and increment is simple. Now while is used, I told you, right? I know from this point to this point I need to iterate, or I have the definitive time, definitive things I know that it need to be executed, so that I'll be giving that particular loop. But here I don't have that particular definitive time, so till when it will be completed. So at that particular point of time, the increment, decrement, or the condition, many a times what it will happen is, I'm sorry, so what it will happen is, it will go for infinite loop. So that is how this would be going on. Okay, so initialization and increment is simple, but here the initialization and the increment and all these things depends upon the situation. Means, for an example, how we write the while loop is, if this object is there, then you do it, until that one you iterate the loop. So if it means when you do the automation, at that point of time, you'll be getting these particular scenarios. So that is how these particular things would be used over here. And you leave about this one. This is the same thing. Number of iteration is known and number of iteration is unknown. So this is the basic differences between these both things. So you need to understand on this. And once the statement executed, then the increment would be done. Increment can be done before and after the execution of the statements. You see here, now that is what the differences between the basic difference between while and then do while. Now I can, for an example here, I given I equal to 100, okay, condition, or greater than 100. Now this is what my statement, right? Before the statement also I can give I plus plus, and after the statement also I can give the I plus plus. Either ways I can do it. But in for loop, always the this particular increment decrement would be done after this one. So before and after, see, now that is in while you can do the increment before executing of your statement or after executing of the statements in the while. But in for, it will only do after only the increment, means the statement is executed, then only it will increment this iteration. Did we got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next one is the initialization. Initialization may be either in the loop statements or outside the loop. Initialization is always outside the loop. Now, what do you mean by this initialization? Do you remember that int I equal to 200? Okay, so I equal to 200. Now this is what declaration and then initialization, whatever you wanted to do. Now it was saying that initialization, you remember, right? In for loop, I can write int I equal to 100, which I'm trying to do the initialization. Now, or I can define it outside also, int I equal to 100, and I'll be writing that I equal to 100 here, and then I can do it. So initialization I can do outside or in the syntax of the for loop. But whereas in while, I don't have that option to define my initialization. I'll do this initialization outside the loop only, not inside the loop. So that is what the basic differences between this. It is very simple. First statement is initialization. Initialization, can I do it in the outside or means inside this for loop? Whereas while, it is mandatory that we need to do it outside. And increment. So the statement would be executed, and according to this particular statement execution, that particular thing would be executed and it would be given back to you. So guys, just give me 1 second, please. if you see here in this particular initialization, so for the while loop, I can do only the external, not internal. So internal loops, which I need to do it, so that I'll be trying to do it. And when it comes to the next one is increment decrement, so that we have been discussed, right? So that increment decrement we need to do once after executing the statement, but here I can do before and after. I can do that one. And the next one, it is entry control loop and the syntax. So these are the basic differences between for loop and while loop. And always you remember that it is very important which loop we need to use it, because that gives you the efficient and effective way of output. And not only from here you will understand there are many ways to do the same thing, but which thing you need to prefer. So based upon the choice, you need to choose it. So for an example, in arrays, so we will be having linked list, array list, stack, vector. All these things are same, but which one we need to use? So based upon the situation, we need to use it. So moving further, that you will be understanding one by one on this. Any questions on for loop and while loop differences? Where to use what?
No, sir.
Okay. Fine. Harshita, share the screen. And guys, don't forget that tomorrow we need to do with this what we say, the switch statements, because that's a continuation of this one. So don't forget to do that. Okay, so debugging, I'm not asking you debugging now. So now let's go for the single dimensional arrays. See guys, now you need to practice for one for loop. So once you understand the one for loop, then go for the second for loop, means the nested for loop. Actually, there are another concept called, see, if at all, if I'm taking an interview, if a guy is giving me an interview, first I'll give him very basic questions. It all depends upon the attitude of the guy or the member who is giving the interview. If he's showing that overconfident to break, sometimes we will see that we wanted to break their confidence too. So at that time, we will make that complexity. We will give 3 loops. 3 loops, we'll give it to him. And I just ask him to print the statement, how it will run. So always you remember that it is very simple. If you have the nested for loops or any loop, it for the matter of while, do while, anything, any nested for loops, if you are using it. Now, actually, in for itself, we have another simpler thing, for each, to reduce the syntax. And we do have some more other things are there. So that we will be, when you go for collections topic, you in collections in Java, you will understand those particular topics. Now, first of all, understand the basic for. Now, if I have to iterate for 10 times, it will iterate 10 times. Now, if I have a for, this need to iterate for 10 times, and there is another internal for, it need to iterate 4 times. It will come first iteration, it will come from this is external for loop, and this is internal for loop. So now for the one, it takes an internal for loop. How many times it need to run? 4 times. So now 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the loop breaks, and then it will go for once again. Now it will go for 2 for the external for loop. Now it will bring 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it once again this internal for loop will break, and then it will come for this 3. Now I'll be having 1, 2, 3, 4. So like this, it continues the thing, and then comes till, if I given equal to 10, then it will come till 10 in the external loop, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the condition will stop. So this is the for loop iterations, it will happen. Now this is external, internal, one more internal. So one more internal means now this is main and this is sub and this is sub. So now for this one, I need to execute A, B, C, D. Now for this one also A, B, C, D. For this one also A, B, C, D. For this one also A, B, C, D. So this is the third one. So now the first it will complete. First it will iterate all the things here. Then it will come here. It will iterate all this here. Then it will come to here. So this is how the for loop, the chain would be increased. If you are able to debug 3 for loops, you would be really mastered in this, and you can sort it out any particular complex logics. That's the prominence of for loop or the loops. If you understand how these things would be executed, so that would be done. Now here there are 2 more concepts are there. One is named for loop. So if you wanted to make this particular for loops more complicated, we will call it as named for loop. What the named for loop is, for an example, this external for named or labeled for loop. So very few people will answer this one, even though for experienced also the people will get struggle. I'll give a label for this, saying that this is parent loop. Now this is, or okay, I'll give you this one as a grandparent loop, and this label as parent loop, and this as child loop. So this is just, I'll give the label. So if you wanted to see those things, hope you are able to see the screen now.
Yes, sir.
Here you can see that named for loops. So if you give it, we can give the name for the for loop. See, this is a named for loop. Found is a name, means you can continue, you can give that particular name of the for loop like this. Why it can be used also, I can show it to you. See, this will be not see, usually this is a little bit advanced concepts, but still if someone wanted to make your interview tougher, definitely they will try to do it. You see it, right? Outer colon for loop. So now this is a named for loop. So inner, outer. So like this, they will give it the name. You can give any name. You can give your own name or any other things also you can give it. So this is called means named loops. This is one concept. Why we give the names for this? Example. Now I given you the same example, right? So I'll just try to share that one again rather than to redraw. See, now if you see here, external loop, internal loop. Now, okay, you remove the third one. Don't go for the third one. So 1, I need to print 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like this at 10 times I will iterate. Till here we are clear, right? So 2 for loops I have. This for loop and this for loop. So now here I'll keep this one as outer for loop, and this one I keep it as an inner for loop. Okay, so this is outer for loop, and then this is the inner for loop. Now outer for loop 1, it will come and then it will iterate for 4 times. Say once again it will come 2 and then it will iterate for 4 times. It will come 3, it will iterate for 4 times. Like this particular iterations will happen. Sometimes now I keep a condition that x equal means if I equal to greater than or equal to 18, some age validation, everyone should be greater than this. If someone is not greater, then what I need to do, I don't want to execute these particular statements at all. I wanted to skip this. If this particular condition is failed, I don't want to execute this particular, even the next iterations also, I don't want to do it. So now for this one, we have the things called break and continue. Now, what do you mean by break and continue? For an example, I'm traveling in a car, suddenly I have given a brake so that it will stop the vehicle. Same way, now I don't want to proceed further with the next iterations 3 and 4. If I given the brake, so always it will, it's based upon the condition, we will give the brake so that it will be stopped here. Now 1 and 2 executed, 3 and 4 it will not execute, it break, it comes out of the loop. From the outer loop, from the inner loop, it will come to the outer loop. And if you keep the break statement here, then it will come out of the complete loop. See, now you're searching for an element. There are 100, for a simple example, there are 100 cells. Consider this is the table. One for loop, you will be writing it for rows, and the other for loop, you will be writing it for columns. You can think that I and J, you will be writing it, right? Usually, the right naming convention is into row and into column values. Now, this is a cell values. Now, what I need to do, I need to iterate in all these particular cells and rows. Now, first row, now I'll run my outer loop. Okay, outer for I. So now this is first, and I need to iterate on, this is a first row. Now I need to iterate on columns. So second column, third column, fourth column, like that. I'll go and check. I'll be having Chris, name equal to Chris. I wanted to give it. Wherever I see the name equal to Chris, then I can stop this. Right? What I need to write the program for I iterate for this, and J iterate for this. This is for rows, this is for columns. If get value of this cell equal to Chris, then you need to come out. Right? This is the program you need to write it. This is the algorithm. Now I'll check here. Iterated no, but here it is there. So now what I'll try to do, I'll write this and I'll write it here as a break. So success, I'm able to find this value, break. So now what it will try to do, it will break this particular internal loop, and even it will break this particular loop also. So this is called break. And here what we can do is, directly if you wanted to come out from both the statements, I don't want to write here a break and here break. I'll directly write break outer, the name of for loop, this name of for loop, so that directly it will break here. Because if your outer for loop is broken, the internal for loop is broken. I know that you are completely getting confused, but you should understand what is the advantage of break and continue and all. So do one thing, write for a simple for, okay, you printing the values, right? Use break. Break means it will come out of the loop. Continue means it will skip for that situation, and then for an example 1, 2, 3, 4. If I given continue, it will skip that statement, not execute that particular statement in that, and it will go for the next iteration. It will continue. It will not stop. See now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now 3, I don't want. If I value equal to 3, then continue. If I given it, then it will not print me the statement of 3. It will print me 1, 2, 4, 5. So continue will skip that particular iteration. Whereas break will stop and it will not proceed further with the 4 and 5 also. So that's the difference between break, continue, and labeled for loop. Why I'm giving it to you information, at least if you're not, if you're able to understand, that would be really great. And if you're getting confused, it's okay. But first, at least try on this particular break, continue in a normal sample with a simple if condition, simple for loop, and then you can use it. So for this one, you need to use for inside a if condition. So show me tomorrow a break statement, continue statement, debug that, and then show it to me. So that's the job for tomorrow. And break and continue, and the switch statements. So bring up with all the switch statements, implement the switch, and let me know the basic differences between the switch and if conditions, which to use. Means because if you go to the switch, you let me know tomorrow. So you people need to explain me what is switch, and so the differences between if else and then switch, we can see it in tomorrow's session. differences between if else, switch, and implementation of skip and continue, and then continued and followed with the single dimensional array will be for the tomorrow. I'm not able to continue the session, so I'll stop over here. Any questions?
Sir, array question you can ask it. No.
No. We'll talk that one tomorrow. So because we didn't started with that, so once we go there, we'll talk there.
So named for loop, for each for loop, we can give the name.
Yes, any for example, now first for loop, I will give it as 001, and second for loop 002, 003, 004. Now for an example here, I wanted to give a break. If I wanted to break, I break here, break here, break here, break here. Means I'll break, I'll come here, I'll break, I'll come here, I'll break, I'll come here. Rather than this all, what I'll do, break 001. If I given it, directly it will break from here. So now when the for loop broken here, it will not execute this and this. So that's the advantage of the labeled for loop. You can give it, if you see, I never seen a program more than 3 loops in my career. Maximum loops 4 is what I have been seen. That's it. And that too a complex logic. I seen it 4 iterations. 4 for loops, 4 nested for loops. So this is called nested for loop, right? One for a for loop inside a for loop is nested for loop.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any questions?
No.
And team, I'm very sorry. See, it's not my intention to yell or shout at you people, but sometimes it will be because I come with more concentration, because I do have a lot of things running in my mind. Now, when I'm taking the session, I wanted to force myself to be concentrate on this, because I'll have 3 laptops in front of me. So I'll be operating this, on one side I'll be having this classes, and other people will be pinging it, and I need to focus more, because as I told you, I'm a very poor guy. I can't understand if I'm not able to focus. If I have some distractions, I can't concentrate on the session at all. So please do understand my situation, and then follow some classroom ethics, so that it would be etiquettes that will definitely makes you happy and me happy. So if I distracted, I'll forget the complete things. That's my problem. Understand and then cooperate with me. And it's not really my intention to hurt anyone in this session. I know that I'm nowhere for you people to say all or talk to you people like this, but sometimes involuntarily it will come. Please try to understand. Thank you. Have a great day. Let's catch back on these particular pointers. See you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.